G'day and welcome to Insights and Storytelling with me, Moon Willow. Thank you very much for joining me, and I apologise that it's been a while since I've attempted to put one of these out. For the past couple of days, couple of weeks, I've struggled to put my head above the parapet, as it were, and so consequently haven't done one of these. And then it got to the point where it's like anything, I guess, that if you haven't done something for a while, it's difficult to sort of get back up and do it again. But it felt really important that I tried, so here I am. And thank you very much for your perseverance. I'm conscious of the fact that we're heading back into full moon energy, and I suppose that goes really well with sort of doing this tonight in presenting and coming out, I guess, and lifting the veil. So with that in mind, going to lift the veil and see what crystal, what chakra would like to be listened to tonight, and we'll see where that goes beyond that. It's also very weird because tonight, I don't know, my eyesight seems to be getting a bit worse, so I'm hoping that the fuzziness that I see in the screen ahead of me is just my eyesight and not the recording, but we'll see what happens. So tonight's crystal is carnelian, so the sacral chakra, and what we create, and that's actually been quite reminiscent of the past where I've been sitting, I guess, and I suppose where a lot of us are probably sitting as well, in sort of how do we manage everything that's going off around us, and how do we create our responses to the world that we live in. I ended up in isolation over this past 10 days and went inwards probably more than I was anticipating. And and I know that I'm not alone in that. I know that a lot of people in the world are in isolation, and not just because of the big thing that's sort of going off in the world, but we're isolated in so many different ways. We're isolated from other like-minded people. We can be isolated from our family from different parts of the world because we can't travel as much as we used to be able to. We can be isolated in our thoughts and opinions, and it's difficult to maintain our own level of truth and understanding as to how we experience the world and how do we remain authentic in that. And I know that sort of the last one that I did was around the throat and how we speak our truth, and how difficult that is in communicating with others around us that don't, and loved ones that don't seem to experience the world in the same way that we do. And it's very hard then to maintain an authenticity in that relationship. So I feel like the carnelian and the sacral space coming out tonight is very much sort of like the next bit within that, although the sacral, the gut, is lower down, but my understanding is the two are quite interlinked. Our gut response to situations clue us into how we can feel about something, and then it's our throat that gives expression to it, and the throat is a powerful medium, but it works in more than one way. An inability to speak, our truth, to speak our gut response, can actually be quite painful and really frustrating. But it can equally be powerful that the way that we would like to create our world, we can bring into fruition by speaking that into being, and speaking our creativity as well, and giving it form. So it's about, at the moment, I guess, it's about really diving into our sacral space and having a look at how we want to respond to the world around us, and the reasons why we may fall in line with society's expectations, or the moments where we choose to walk a different path, and the understanding and the stories that we give that as well. They're very important, and it's in this time of the full moon that we can actually fully light into that space, more of an understanding and awareness as to why we choose to say something or not say something, that we choose to react or not react, we choose to continue to create the space that we live in or don't live in. But it's really giving ourselves breathing space to look into that fully, or avoid it, which can happen quite a lot. But it is important that we notice that we're avoiding it as well, and have a bit of an understanding as to why that is, and the possibilities are that that is the only way that we can maintain a semblance of normality, or semblance of holding on to ourselves to actually get to the end of whatever trial is happening in our lives. Big things, little things, we seem to be bombarded on a regular basis, and what we normally use to cope may not be made available at those moments, and then it's using other things to actually hold on, to get through, to actually get us to the next stepping stone, to the next point of creation, the next way of moving forward creatively, to remain whole, to actually continue to participate and contribute to our society. So I don't know, I'm hoping this is making sense to some of you that are listening. I'm going to shuffle the cards and see what else comes out. We'll use that one. And that one. Don't know how many was in that block. So the three cards tonight are Mountain or Iceberg, Child, and the Dog. So the Iceberg. There are a lot of promises that are made on a regular basis, and it really screams to me tip of the iceberg, and it's almost like everything that gets thrown at us, we feel like we're delving deep, that we're working it out, that we have some semblance of understanding as to the way that we want to respond, react, move forward, gain insight, allow the veil to be taken back so that we can see deeply, so that we can figure out how we're going to move forward, that we can navigate and negotiate deep waters without getting drowned, without getting lost. Find the next stepping stone so that we can actually walk across the turbulent water safely. And it feels like there are times when we can actually do that and play. I remember sort of talking about going around the reserve with my Wellingtons on and actually having a lot of fun and joy in traversing that walk, where I could actually see the path forward, and I could take risks, and that worked, and that was quite enjoyable, and I felt like I was managing to move forward and negotiating icebergs and seeing the depths underneath it. But I'm highly aware that life has several times, or has a way of almost like testing us. It tests us a lot, I feel, and it's almost like, and I know I've mentioned before, it's like having one step forward and 72 back. Probably haven't used quite that many steps, but that's how much it feels sometimes. And it's almost like you feel like you're on top of the iceberg, or you've managed to see the depths of the iceberg, and then all of a sudden you're plunged into quite a dark space, and you can actually see the depths of the underneath of the iceberg. And that can be quite fearful, fear creating, stressful, and can give us an opportunity to get lost, I suppose. But within our sacral space, as within all aspects of ourselves, there is the darker aspects, shadow side, that are more often than not put across as a negative thing. But actually, by dancing with it, by learning more about it, we can actually have a greater sense of ourselves, and that depth of self and the depths of the iceberg, I guess, can give us the opportunity, a rich opportunity, to find more to draw from. And we can become more creative in the way that we respond and react. And I don't know, I have spoken in the past as well about if we're presented with a blank piece of paper and told that there is a beautiful picture on it, it's not until we get the shadow, the darkness, the lines put on that white paper, that we can actually fully appreciate the depth of the picture, seeing how far we've come, how far we've moved, the triumphs and the troughs and the difficulties, but how we've managed to negotiate those difficulties to move forward, how that's helped to create the world in which we're living in at the moment, and how we choose to continue to move forward or not. There's always a choice not to, but I really feel it's important that we do continue to choose to do so, that we actually choose magic, we actually choose a route forward. So that brings me into the next card, the child. And it's like every time, I don't know, every time we get plunged into something, into the shadow, it gives us an opportunity to look at it from a childlike perspective, I guess, and gives us a chance to start fresh. But every time we start afresh, it's starting with a different foundation, a different knowledge base, that nothing really is, the older we get, nothing is completely new, because we always have a lot that we're taking forward with us, that we can actually utilize our life's lessons, the dark ones, the light ones, the bright ones, the bad ones, the whatever. We can actually utilize that to help us move forward. And it feels like that this is new for all of us. I had some pictures come up from a year ago. And it was just a year ago when I'd actually travelled down to London for a seminar on urinary tract infections, really, which I know is probably a bit much information. But there was only slight whisperings at that time of this thing coming out of China. And 365 days later, we have almost become accepting of this new way of being. I haven't really accepted it, but that's beside the point. And I think a lot of us haven't. But it's trying to work out how to approach this in a new way so that we're not as impacted or bound by expectations. And a lot of us have got a lot of choices and decisions to make as to how we go forward, how much we actually believe of the media or the presentations in the media or other sources, as to how we go forward, how we actually work out the next stages, what's going to happen in the next 365 days. And I guess the steps that we're taking at the moment out of this is a bit like the new steps of a toddler. And we're going to end up falling over, we're going to end up feeling a bit swamped, a bit confused as to how to go forward, how to progress, who to trust, how do we trust ourselves? We need to learn how to trust our gut and really feel into our emotional, our gut responses to the situations around us, and have an awareness of why we make certain decisions, even though on a surface level it may feel contrary to what we believe. There's a lot of games that are being played at the moment, and we need to work out which games we're going to continue playing and which ones we're not. How do we continue to navigate in a way forward that keeps us safe so that we can actually create a connection and a way forward that feels joyful and, I don't know, joyful, that wonder of children, that childlike wonder of having the magic in the world, because I do think it's possible. Which then brings me into the dog. So friendship. And I really feel that it's very much about befriending ourselves and befriending that childlike quality within us of having that magical alchemy to play, to create a wonderful world, an inner landscape that has fairy lights, that has a wonderful way of being to help move us forward, so that we have a way to light up the darker elements of ourselves, the darker elements of that outside, that even as the veils get taken back, that we notice the darkness that is in the world around us, that we don't feel quite so hemmed in, that we can actually continue to see a light going forward, that we can actually befriend the earth underneath our feet, so that we can feel the support and the nourishment from there, that we can continue to befriend all living creatures of this world, that we can actually continue to talk to the trees and the birds, notice the foxes outside, notice each other, notice when each other needs something else, something a little bit more, and continue to befriend those around us and accept help when it's offered, but equally remembering to actually ask for help, so that you don't feel quite so isolated, that you actually realize and recognize that we're all going through this dark night of the souls together in different ways at different times, that there are times when one of us is up and the other one's down. One of us is holding the light while the other one is searching for the way forward, and the other one is then changing that over and utilizing somebody else's light just to see the way ahead, and just reaching out. So I do feel that this one tonight is very much about our inner landscape and the stories we've told ourselves, that we may have got lost a little bit in the darkness, that actually the full moon coming through over the next sort of 72 hours will help give us light, brightness, inspiration to find that childlike wonder, that we actually managed to kick free of the iceberg and actually work out how to befriend ourselves, how to befriend the earth underneath our feet and each other, so that we can actually find some sort of alchemy and magic to continue going forward. So I'm hoping that this is making sense to some of you that's listening, and I do apologise that I haven't been online for a few days. And I hope that I'm going to end up coming back more frequently. And with that in mind, I'm going to see which sound comes through for us this evening as well. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you're all well. Take care of yourselves. Love you all. See you soon.